welcome to the Breakfast All Day podcast in all its various forms.
Woo!
We figured out how to talk into the mics. It only took us 4 months. It only took me. I'll speak for myself because these are my mics and that's his mic. It took us 4 months to figure out how to speak correctly because one of our lovely viewers / listeners scribbled down on a napkin like a cocktail napkin. You're talking into the mic this way and it should be this way. So thank you very much. Yana, I believe is who it was.
Right.
And,
it turns out our mics fire on the side, not on the top.
You know
yes.
what? I am not an audio technician, but anyway, we're figuring it out.
And I've been doing a podcast for 8 years. You think I'd know better, but I don't.
Yes, I'm Christy.
I'm Matt Alonso.
You're Matt Alonso.
I'm Alonso. Hi. I'm Matt.
It's really good to see you guys. I'm happy to see you both. Thank you for coming back to my dining room table for our second episode of Breakfast All Day.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks everyone.
Go ahead.
No, I was thank everybody who subscribed already. We are now on iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and a bunch of other places. Podbean. So subscribe to the audio, subscribe to the video here on YouTube if that's where you're watching us.
And you can't see her because she's lying down, and you can't really hear her because she's not making any noise. But Sabrina is here.
Sabrina's here because we're talking about a doggy movie. So let's start with that doggy movie since we are here. It's called A Dog's Way Home. And it's not really a sequel to A Dog's Purpose, but it may as well be because it's essentially the exact same movie.
Yeah, this dog has no purpose.
To get home. Her purpose is to go home.
Yeah, I guess. I hadn't watched the trailer, so I didn't really know what I was getting into. And I didn't see A Dog's Purpose. I have a dog. And was joking with you and Nick beforehand, who's playing the dog? Turns out... somebody is playing the dog.
Boy, is she.
Right.
Yeah.
Bryce Dallas Howard is the voice of the dog, Bella. I don't know where Edward is in this movie. Bella's a stray. We see early on that she's living with her mother, a full pit bull, which everyone is, or at least the animal control person, is very scared of. With a bunch of cats underneath a collapsed house. Animal control takes most of the animals away. Bella gets adopted.
Bella gets suckled by the mama cat, which I've never seen in a movie before.
And then she gets adopted by the nice young man who lives across the street with his mother, played by Ashley Judd. She ends up helping out at the VA.
She is a veteran,
right? She's
with PTSD, and then Bella winds up hanging out at the VA and being sort of a support animal.
Right. Bella ends up hanging out at the VA, but then, oh no, you can't have a pit bull in Denver, and so she gets taken to New Mexico and gets out. She busts out of the New Mexico dog jail.
It's not dog jail. It's a nice, comfortable home.
Nice, comfortable
and they're
house,
literally coming back to get her, and
it's not
she goes
her home.
No.
And so she decides she's going to hoof it, or paw it, I guess I should say, back to her home in Denver. And sappiness and schmaltz ensues.
Oh, I wouldn't mind sappiness and schmaltz so much. I think genuine trauma ensues.
Yeah, there's some of that.
How did young Nicholas fare in this movie? Because I was astounded at what they were doing in a kid's movie.
You guys, he's so jaded. He
is jaded.
He's 9 and he's cynical and jaded, and so any kind of dog movie, he knows I'm going to cry, and so he just looks to me over and over again to see if I'm going to cry, so he can then laugh at me for crying. So he was not affected by this in any way. But yeah, there are some harrowing moments, just like there are in A Dog's Purpose. What he noticed, his main contribution to our discussion of this, which I thought was a very astute point on his part, which I didn't realize in the watching of the thing, is structurally, it's exactly the same as A Dog's Purpose.
Well, A Dog's Purpose, the dog keeps dying over and over again.
The fact that the dog goes from one person to the next, to the next, to the next, and it's episodic in that way, and also the fact that there is wall-to-wall narration. So in A Dog's Purpose, it was Josh Gad saying adorable things. Here it's Bryce Dallas Howard saying adorable things. And there's so much hand-holding that goes on. There is not a single thing that Bryce Dallas Howard says in the narration that we could not have inferred ourselves from watching the actual images on screen. There's so much hand-holding that goes on here. It was cold. I didn't like the cold. Or, oh, I like cheese. Cheese was yummy and warm. Things that, the dog is wagging its tail and eating cheese. That should be obvious. It's a good thing. So that was annoying. But what's weird about that is the narration clearly seems to be aimed at really little kids.
Oh yeah,
But
this
then
is a
so
movie
much
for
of-
6-year-olds.
But then so much of what happens, as Alonso points out, is really
Not,
harrowing and
yeah,
stressful.
I cannot imagine taking a 6-year-old to see this movie and having them watch like a dog catcher, hunters who kill a cougar,
There's a brawl with a dog. And
an
there's wolves.
avalanche, like
think those are
wolves.
Are they coyotes? I think
Yeah,
they're
they're
wolves.
coyotes.
I
Whatever
thought-
they
no,
are,
they're wolves.
They're wildlife creatures who are trying to tear sweet Bella apart. Like
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't look great because there's a lot of uncanny valley stuff going on with the graphics, but like
Yeah.
but it's stressful.
Bella, let us not forget, also at one point gets chained to a dead homeless man, played by Edward James Olmos.
Down by the river.
Down by the river.
No
I'm
good.
like, you've got to be kidding me, movie. Like, I was reminded of Thelma Ritter and All About Eve. What a story. Everything with the bloodhounds yapping at your rear end, Like, so much stuff happens in this movie, and I think is like that most kids would find just beyond the pale.
Right, and yet it is
Unless
PG.
they are jaded Nicholas Lemire.
Totally, and yet it is rated PG, and the cutesy VO is meant for kids.
Yeah.
It's a weird sort of cross section of stuff.
You know.
It is. I should have been crying the whole way through this, right? You and I, Alonso, both we acknowledged before we even began this that like we are soft touches when it comes to anything with a dog. Like that Lassie remake.
Oh my God, the 2005 Lassie. That's the one to go see. You want to see a movie about a dog going home? Go see that 2005 Lassie. It's amazing.
And nobody has to like do the Lassie voice saying I was cold. So clearly the dog is cold. I was not upset at all until, like, spoiler, okay, the dog gets home. Okay,
yeah, it's in the trailer,
it's not
I
a
think.
spoiler. You don't call a movie A Dog's Way Home and then, like, not have the dog go home. The dog goes home, and that is when I'm like, shit, forget it.
I know. I think I literally said, God damn it, out loud, and just started crying.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, I did come out as like, I can't wait to get home and cuddle with my dog. Right, and brought her today, which I did. The other thing this movie I liked, it didn't get too into, but like for a dog, first of all, the dog everybody thinks is a pit bull. That dog doesn't really look anything like a pit bull.
No.
Like there's kind of, I have a hard time believing that dog came from that mother dog.
But the movie does have a pro.
Well, so it does, it
Adoption.
does say not just pro adoption, like
The pro pit bull.
right? The woman at like kind of the central repository, like the central shelter, is like, yeah, pit bull. Like the idea of labeling dogs pit bulls, it's like calling a dog a hound. Like it's broad, it doesn't mean all that much.
It's fear mongering.
It's fear mongering. Yeah. So.
This is directed by Charles Martin Smith, who starred in Never Cry Wolf, which is also a much better movie about dogs.
He must have hated the wolves in that because he makes the wolves. See,
the wolves are really bad
I'm
guys.
fairly convinced those are coyotes.
Do coyotes live in the
I
snow?
think they're wolves.
I think they're
I
coyotes.
think they're
The wolves are
wolves.
much bigger than that.
Well, the CG is very iffy, especially when it comes to that cougar.
No, like wolves would be almost the size of that cougar.
Anyway, but he also directed
We're talking about the cat.
Air Bud and Dolphin Tail.
This is his wheelhouse.
So yeah, this is clearly his jam. But yeah, I just the tonally, this is like, who is this movie for? Because you're right, the narration is like over cute by half, and even by like dog narration standards. And then but then the really dark shit happens. I will give this movie points for including a gay couple and making not a big deal about it. Like at one point, this guy is snowshoeing and there's an avalanche, and his dog and Bella both dig him out. And when he gets taken off,
the avalanche. So better dig it out.
Right, the barking causes the avalanche. So it must have been like a hair trigger. Anyway, so when that guy gets taken off to the hospital, and this couple who's cross country skiing take in both of the dogs, assuming that both of the dogs belong to the snowshoe guy, and it's obvious that they're a gay couple. They never come out and say so, but like there's pictures of them together on the mantle, and they live together, and and I just thought, wow, okay, we have reached a point where in a PG movie aimed at children, you can have this couple in there, and it's no big deal, because the canard about queer inclusion is always like, I don't want to have to explain to my kids about butt sex, and it's like, you don't have to. That's not what this is about.
In a movie that also makes a point of being like really, pro vet and like, right. And so I couldn't help but thinking as this movie's going by, I'm like, this is a movie like, is this made for, middle America, red states, I mean, not to get too political with it, but I'm like, this is in a
look,
lot of cases, this is a super safe movie for a certain audience.
I just watched 38 Hallmark Christmas movies, so my radar is very attuned to like what messages we're sending to Mid-America. But yeah, like the veteran stuff, I thought was very nicely done. It was never heavy-handed or like, our troops. If anything, it's like our troops are suffering now, and the VA needs more support than like we need to do stuff for them. So like that was smarter and cooler than it could have been.
And the moment where they all stand up for the dog
Yes.
is quite lovely.
It is.
When they all say, there's a moment where having been veterans is germane
Right.
to their fight for the dog.
Right.
That part's nice.
And the central relationship is an interracial couple.
Right.
Is the other thing.
Right. The other thing I liked about, one of the things that I'll give this movie a point for is casting Wes Studi and not making him have to be like only a Native American character.
Right.
So I'd like to see him have more screen time.
Mm.
I'm a big fan of his, but it's nice to see him just be a guy.
There's also and also with the Edward James Olmos character, there's a lot of sympathy for him and the fact that the dog at that point in his life is his only friend,
Right.
and there's some kindness there. So yeah, it does have a lot of inclusivity in a way that doesn't feel mawkish or forced or heavy-handed. It's quite generic and organic
It's
rather.
still not very good.
The movie itself is not very good. Yeah, it's funny. Chris came and met us at the mall after the movie, and he was like, "How was it?" I said, "It's terrible, but it's effective." And then I went back and I watched our What the Flick review of A Dog's Purpose, and I said the exact same thing 2 years ago. This month, 2 years ago, A Dog's Purpose came out, and I said, "It's terrible, but it's effective. It does what it sets out to do." So
If you like The Dog's Purpose, then this is probably going to press your buttons.
they're very similar. Okay, so what are your numbers then? I'm saying 4.
I said 5.5. I think there's a lot of competence to it, and it did make me feel things even when I was sort of aghast at like where it was going.
Yeah, what did I say? 4.5.
You said 4.5.
4.5. This is a bad dog movie. It's not a movie about a bad dog.
It's a bad.
Bella's a good dog.
Dog movie.
Bella's a good dog. So our numbers are 4.7. It's at 56% on the tomato meter.
All right.
Go watch Any Lassie instead.
Yes, but definitely the 2005 one.
But pet your dog.
Yes, adopt. Spay and neuter your pets. All that stuff. Follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Subscribe, rate, review, share, tell your friends. If you have friends who are wondering, hey, whatever happened to What the Flick? Tell them this is whatever happened to What the Flick. It's now Breakfast All Day. Thanks for watching.